She chased him for 7 years. He despised her for it. But when she was about to be erased, he left me, on our engagement night, to save her. 7 years of love, he said, shouldn't end like this. What he never knew was, my own mission had failed too. And my punishment was to forget him completely. This video is an original creation of the YouTube channel Romance Grove. Enjoy! I stood on the engagement stage in a pristine white dress, my smile frozen, waiting for my fiancé, Patrick Ford. Below the stage were relatives and friends from both families. The laughter and joy had long faded, replaced by murmurs and confusion. Patrick Ford still hadn't come on stage. He was supposed to be backstage. He had already dressed in his suit. The engagement rings were ready. But he wouldn't appear. The MC urged him 3 times, only to be rebuffed. Miss Lopez, Mr. Ford is on a video call with someone. His expression's terrible. I really don't dare urge him again. The MC gave me a nervous smile. I clenched and relaxed my fingers, remaining silent. He was probably video calling her. Her name was Jennifer. Patrick and I were childhood friends. We laughed and played together, studied at the same schools, from kindergarten to college. Everyone believed we were destined for each other. All our relatives were sure we would end up married. Patrick had sworn he would marry no one but me. He never paid attention to any other girl, including his junior, Jennifer. Jennifer had appeared in our lives 7 years ago, when Patrick and I were sophomores and she was a freshman. She came from a poor mountain village. Her clothes were plain, and she wore no makeup. Yet she wasn't shabby, her eyes sparkled like stars. She stared at Patrick with those bright eyes ever since he once defended her when a supermarket owner accused her of theft. But Patrick didn't like her. He didn't like the breakfast she delivered every day. He didn't like the water she handed him after games. He didn't like the umbrella she held out on rainy days. He especially didn't like her pitiful expression, always claiming it was just gratitude, nothing more. Yet she had just gratitude for 7 years. Even after graduation, she worked near our company just to bump into him once a day. Such persistence. But Patrick was mine. At least, he was mine until he walked onto that stage. Patrick finally appeared. His tie was crooked, his hair messy, his face pale and conflicted. His lips were tightly pressed. The guests sighed with relief and applauded to lighten the atmosphere. The MC grabbed the microphone, ready to begin. But Patrick ignored everything. He walked straight to me, took my hand, and hoarsely said, "Angela, I'm sorry. I have to leave for a bit. Can we postpone the engagement for a month?" "Why?" I looked into his eyes. My gaze wasn't as bright as Jennifer's, and I couldn't tell if he still loved me. He hesitated, glancing away. "The date's not good. Let's pick another one next month." "Is Jennifer in trouble?" I asked directly. Patrick froze. His expression changed. He forced a strained smile. "Jennifer. She's hospitalized. Late-stage cancer. The doctors say she only has about a month left." I had it verified. "It's real." No wonder he took so long. He had people verify it. So everything she said was true. She failed to win your love and now must pay the price. I turned my face slightly. This wasn't a secret. Jennifer had told Patrick long ago that if she didn't win his love, she would die. She claimed she would love no one else in her lifetime. Yes, she's being severely punished. She'll die in pain from cancer. Patrick sighed, lips pressed again. He had always hated Jennifer. After being pestered for 7 years, his patience had worn thin. He had even once hit her in a fit of rage. Jennifer had curled up on the floor, crying and apologizing, saying she couldn't help loving him. Crazy woman. That was Patrick's usual opinion of her. Now, that opinion seemed to have changed. "The engagement won't take long. Maybe we can finish the ceremony and then visit Jennifer together," I suggested reasonably. Patrick's expression shifted again. He looked at his watch and said urgently, "Better if I go now. You should rest, Angela." He turned to leave. The tears I had held back started to well. I quickly lowered my head to look at my dress. It wasn't a wedding gown, but it was just as beautiful. So why did it feel as cold and desolate as snow? "Let's finish the engagement first." "It won't take long," I said again, voice trembling. Patrick turned back, took a deep breath. "Angela, I don't want to lie to you. Jennifer said that if I go through with the engagement, it means her mission has failed completely. She will die immediately. So can we wait a bit longer?" He softened his voice. "She might be annoying, but she loved me for 7 years. She doesn't deserve to die like this." I let out a bitter laugh. So Jennifer's mission hadn't failed yet. She was still fighting. I had so much to say, but looking at Patrick's anxious and uneasy expression, I couldn't say a single word. He truly wanted to rush to Jennifer's side. He didn't want to stay even a second longer. Not even for our engagement. I stood silently. Tears finally fell. Patrick patted my head and strode off. Everyone was stunned. Relatives shouted after Patrick, but he ignored them and headed straight for the door. I looked up. My vision blurred with tears. Through the haze, I saw only Patrick's fading figure. The moment he stepped out the door, the world spun. My head throbbed with pain, and I collapsed. Host has failed the mission. All memories of Patrick will now be erased. I woke up in the hospital to see my parents looking at me with worried eyes. The room was filled with relatives and our kind neighbors, Uncle Ford and Aunt Ford. The moment I opened my eyes, my parents burst into tears of joy and finally relaxed. Uncle Ford gritted his teeth. "Angela, you're finally awake. My son has gone mad. I swear I'll break his legs." "Angela, don't take it to heart. We'll make sure Patrick learns his lesson. He really is such a disappointment." Aunt Ford's eyes were red as she promised repeatedly to discipline Patrick. I stared blankly, my mind a complete fog. Patrick. Who was that? Didn't Uncle Ford and Aunt Ford only have a daughter? Since when did they have a son? Seeing my dazed look, my parents became even more anxious. They touched my forehead and held my hands nervously. My mother cried again, grief and anger all over her face. "Just look at what Patrick has done to my daughter. After all these years of love, he ran away at the engagement party. Please don't blame us. I've already sent Emma Ford to find him. We'll get to the bottom of this and give your family a proper explanation," Uncle Ford said apologetically. I blinked and asked hesitantly, who is Patrick? What? All the relatives in the room were stunned. My mother gasped in shock and rushed to call the doctor. The doctor came and ran a thorough examination. The results showed nothing abnormal. Physically, I was in excellent shape and could be discharged at any time. I just couldn't remember how I ended up in the hospital. It felt like I had forgotten quite a lot. The doctor suggested I stay for 3 days under observation. If nothing changed, I could go home. During those 3 days, my parents and the Fords refused to leave my side. They ate, slept, and cared for me in shifts. I started feeling embarrassed. It was fine with my own parents, but Uncle and Aunt Ford were being overly kind. I didn't know how to handle it. I told them to go home. I was fine. They exchanged glances, both looking a bit odd. "Angela, have you really forgotten Patrick? You're our daughter-in-law. Of course we should take care of you," Aunt Ford said, displeased by my distant tone. I gave an awkward smile. "Patrick? Who exactly is he? Don't tell me I'm his wife." "You two were about to get engaged." There was just a little hiccup. Uncle Ford replied and took the opportunity to tell me about Patrick and me. He recounted the engagement party and even our childhood stories, how we walked dogs and climbed trees together. "When you were 7, our families went to the beach. You were swept away by a wave, and Patrick jumped in after you without thinking. If the lifeguard hadn't arrived in time, you both could have." Uncle Ford watched my face closely, hoping for a flicker of memory. I gave a dry smile. I had no recollection. Not even a trace. He grew anxious, and Aunt Ford sighed. Maybe she was too upset. "Just rest and don't overthink it." But I wasn't upset. I didn't even know Patrick. What was there to be upset about? The second day in the hospital, the weather was lovely. I felt great, scrolling my phone and nibbling on pastries. Uncle Ford was outside on the phone, his voice loud and furious. "You little brat, Angela's in the hospital and you won't even come see her? I'll beat you to death." "You can't leave? I don't care if you're dying, crawl over here." "Hey, hello?" Clearly, the call was cut off. He called again, but the line was off. Next to me, my mom shook her head. "Since yesterday, your uncle and aunt have made dozens of calls. Patrick finally picked up one today." She was furious and deeply disappointed in him. I simply shrugged and went back to my phone and my pastries. In the afternoon, Emma Ford arrived. She was Uncle Ford's daughter, and we had been close friends since childhood. She rushed in to check on me. Seeing my rosy complexion and natural expression, she sighed in relief. "Sis-in-law, relax. I already gave my brother a good scolding. He's such an idiot. I swear, I could die from how mad he makes me." Emma was always outspoken, but she usually held back in front of elders. She must have been genuinely furious. Uncle Ford asked anxiously what had happened. Emma took a sip of water and explained, "It's Jennifer again. She's always had a thing for my brother. She even once stood outside our house in the rain for a whole day and night. Now she's got cancer and doesn't have long to live. She wants my brother to accompany her through her final days." And he agreed. They've already moved to the seaside villa so Jennifer can gaze at the ocean every day. Emma grew angrier as she spoke. She slammed the table. I went after them and caught my brother pushing Jennifer on a swing. She looked so damn happy, I nearly exploded. She clearly knew everything. She had gone to confront Patrick in person. My parents were livid. Their faces turned ashen, almost shouting out loud. Uncle and Aunt Ford were equally furious. Aunt Ford nearly fainted. Uncle Ford clenched his teeth. Patrick, you bastard. Then he turned to my parents, apologizing profusely. Angela, I'll personally drag Patrick back here and make him kneel to beg for your forgiveness. Aunt Ford agreed and urged him to go. I blinked and kept eating pastries, as blank as ever. Emma was a little stunned. She asked cautiously, Sis-in-law, are you okay? Of course I was okay. Why wouldn't I be? The pastries were delicious, and my phone worked fine. I'm great, really. Quite entertaining, actually. Ha! I truly found this whole Patrick situation amusing. It was absurdly dramatic. Everyone exchanged glances. My parents, now both angry and worried, had me examined again. The results were still normal. But no one believed it. Without another word, Uncle Ford stormed off to hunt Patrick down. On the third day, he brought Patrick back. My parents, Aunt Ford, and Emma were all present. The moment Patrick stepped into the room and saw me, guilt and worry filled his face. Angela, are you okay? I wanted to come sooner, but Jennifer had just gotten out of the hospital and needed care first. He sat down to apologize. I stared at him. Honestly? This stranger was very handsome. 6'2", tall and lean, with sharp features and big eyes. It would be hard for anyone that good-looking to be ugly. Uncle Ford, Aunt Ford, when did you get such a handsome son? I said cheerfully. Patrick froze. His brows furrowed. He reached for my hand. Angela, it's me, Patrick. We're childhood sweethearts. Don't say things like that. Before he finished, I instinctively yanked my hand back, frowning. Who the heck was this guy? Why was he touching me? Patrick froze again, then lowered his head and gave a bitter smile. Dad says you have amnesia. But I know you're pretending. You hate me now. I deserve it. Angela, please let me explain. He reached for my hand again. I frowned even deeper and flung his hand off. What are you doing? Don't touch me. Patrick hadn't expected such a strong reaction. He looked embarrassed and humiliated. He lowered his head and clutched it with both hands. I won't touch you anymore. I know I hurt you deeply. But Jennifer is dying. You know this. She's going to die. She's had a miserable life, born poor, always suffering, never a good day in her life. Patrick looked up. She wasted 7 years of her youth on me. Now she's dying. I can't just sit back and do nothing. I can't watch her suffer. Is one person's life not more important than our engagement party? He was questioning me. My parents were absolutely furious. Uncle Ford slapped Patrick on the head. Shut up. This isn't about the engagement party anymore. Who matters more, Jennifer or Angela? Dad, you can't compare it like that. Jennifer has cancer. She sacrificed so much for me, Patrick argued. I felt irritated. I didn't care about the engagement party, or who was more important. I was just disgusted that this stranger had touched my hand twice. Stop causing a scene. I don't want to see you. Please leave, I sighed and dismissed him. My parents also demanded Patrick leave immediately. Patrick pressed his lips together and slowly stood up. Angela, I still hope you can be reasonable. Jennifer has suffered so much. The happier we are, the more pain she's endured. You can pretend to have amnesia, you can hate me, I accept it all. But please, show Jennifer a little compassion and understanding. I was speechless. What on earth was he talking about? Sorry, but I truly don't know you. As for Jennifer, I think she was a junior back in college. Yeah, she's had a hard life. Take good care of her. Love her well. I wish you both happiness. I sincerely wish them a long and happy life together. Patrick sighed again. When you're done being angry, I'll come back for you. He turned and left, ignoring Emma's scolding and Uncle and Aunt Ford's attempts to stop him. That night, a violent storm rolled in. I woke up in the middle of the night, utterly terrified. I had always feared thunderstorms, and I hadn't grown much braver with age. My parents and the Fords weren't in the room. They were probably resting in the adjoining room. I didn't wake anyone up. I curled up under the blanket, trembling. But my mom came in. She rushed to my side and held my hand. Angela, don't be scared. Mom's here. I relaxed. Even the storm outside didn't seem so scary anymore. She touched my forehead and sighed. I remember back then, whenever there was a thunderstorm, Patrick would run over in the middle of the night holding an umbrella, just to be with you because he knew you were afraid. Really? Yes, he was so worried about you. I remember once, during a particularly loud storm, you were sobbing in fear. Patrick ran barefoot to our door, shouting for you not to be afraid. He ended up with a high fever for days after getting soaked. Really? I felt nothing. I smiled and said, that was foolish, wasn't it? My mom hesitated. Angela, have you really forgotten Patrick? So she was doubting me too. After all, the medical test showed nothing wrong. Mom, I don't know Patrick. I don't even like him. My first impression of him was terrible. Please don't mention him again. She seemed to be thinking deeply but eventually just coaxed me to sleep. After being discharged, we rode with Uncle Ford to his villa. The housekeeper had already prepared lunch. Many of the Ford relatives had arrived to celebrate my recovery. Angela, today we're here to celebrate your recovery and to apologize. Please don't blame us. It's our fault for not raising Patrick properly, Uncle Ford said with sincere guilt. I quickly waved it off. He had taken care of me at the hospital these past few days, he had done enough. The meal was lively. The Ford relatives took turns offering kind words, hoping I would forgive Patrick. They were worried I might call off the engagement. Our families had deep business ties, and our villas were right next door. A falling out would be messy. But I really didn't know this Patrick. Uncles, aunties, you've all been friends with my parents for years. No matter what happens between Patrick and me, it won't affect our family's relationship. Please don't worry. I gave them a dose of reassurance. They visibly relaxed. Aunt Ford chimed in at the perfect time. Angela, once Patrick returns, we'll hold a grand engagement ceremony for you. We won't let you suffer any grievances. Just as she finished speaking, the butler came in to report that Master Ford had returned. Everyone looked toward the entrance. Uncle Ford looked pleased and stood up. I scolded that boy. Looks like he finally came back to apologize. But his face immediately changed, because Patrick wasn't alone. Jennifer was with him. Jennifer was thin and frail, wearing a white coat and a thick hat. She clung weakly to Patrick's arm, standing timidly in the doorway. Everyone froze. Uncle Ford was furious. Patrick, are you insane? How dare you? Jennifer jumped in fright and lowered her head, nervously twisting the hem of her coat. Patrick tried to explain, Dad, don't scare Jennifer. She was terrified by the thunderstorm last night and didn't want to stay by the sea. So I brought her home. You guys usually aren't home, and I didn't know you were having lunch. Shut up. You're insane. Get out. Take Jennifer with you. Uncle Ford shouted. Jennifer trembled even more and began to sob quietly. I was curious. What did the protagonist of this melodrama look like? I hadn't seen Jennifer, my junior in college, for years. So I walked over, motioning for Uncle Ford to calm down. Patrick met my gaze, eyes flickering with guilt and discomfort. I ignored him and looked at Jennifer. She peeked up slightly, revealing a pale face and sparkling eyes. Her eyes were dazzling, brighter than the stars. Despite her bloodless complexion, those eyes made her look like a delicate beauty. Back in college, she had been modestly dressed, her clothes old, her demeanor full of insecurity. Now she still seemed timid, but more pitiable, someone who easily drew sympathy. Jennifer, it's been a long time, I said with a smile. Jennifer stood frozen, staring at me in confusion. Patrick spoke up. Angela, this is all my fault. Don't blame Jennifer. I'll take her away right now. He tried to pull Jennifer away. She looks like she could be blown away by a breeze. Why are you dragging her around? Let her stay here. The environment and air are good, and we can call a private doctor anytime. It's perfect for her recovery. I made the suggestion. Jennifer froze. Patrick didn't freeze, but he did look angry. It seemed that my overly gracious attitude was something Patrick couldn't accept. He thought I was being sarcastic. Angela, what do you want exactly? I said I'd get engaged to you in a month. Why must you make a fuss? Why are you dragging Jennifer into this with your passive-aggressive tone? She doesn't have long to live. Can't you just let her be happy for a while? Patrick grew increasingly agitated. I was baffled. Why are you angry? I was just expressing concern for my junior's health. A terminal cancer patient shouldn't be running around like that. First of all, I'm not being passive-aggressive. Second, I won't be getting engaged to you in a month or ever, because I don't like you. And lastly, I really, truly don't know you, so please watch your tone. I warned Patrick. Everyone behind me fell silent. Even Jennifer said nothing. Patrick exploded with rage. He grabbed Jennifer's hand and stormed into the villa. Fine, Angela Lopez, you really are something. Keep pretending. I'll accept your suggestion. Jennifer should absolutely stay here to recuperate. This place is perfect for that. He was furious. Uncle Ford snapped, Patrick. Stop right there. Who allowed you to bring an outsider home? Angela Lopez did. Patrick's anger sealed the deal, and Jennifer moved in. The relatives were all fuming, voicing their indignation on my behalf. I couldn't care less. I just wanted to go home. Fortunately, we lived in the same neighborhood. My family's villa was right next door. Back home, my parents ranted about Patrick and fretted over how I'd been wronged. But I didn't feel wronged at all. In fact, things felt just fine. That night, it thundered and poured again. Summer storms always came fast and loud. I curled up in bed, trembling. I was still terribly afraid of thunder. Suddenly, I remembered what Mom had said, how Patrick would come over during storms to comfort me. But that wouldn't happen now. He probably had his little darling Jennifer to tend to. Just then, the doorbell rang. It was barely audible over the storm, but my phone pinged with a visitor alert. Someone had shown up in this weather? Mom answered the door and let the visitor in. I strained to listen and heard Patrick's urgent voice. Angela is afraid of thunder. Every time it storms, she calls for me. If I don't come, she won't sleep. Angela's already asleep. You should leave, my mom said coldly. She clearly held a deep grudge against him. Auntie, this is all my fault. I even lost my temper with her today. I really do love her, it's just, sigh. May I please see her for a moment? No, my mom rejected him flatly. Patrick fell silent, then sighed. Please tell Angela. I know she hasn't forgotten me. I'll wait for her forgiveness, even if it takes a lifetime. Ugh. Disgusting. His words gave me goosebumps. I wasn't even afraid of the thunder anymore. I turned on the light and reached for a glass of water. Glancing out the window, I could see the third floor of the Ford family villa. The lights were on. A figure stood silently at the window, watching in my direction. Startled, I took a closer look. Was that Jennifer? She stood there like a ghost. I figured she must be watching Patrick. I quickly pulled the curtains shut. Otherwise, I'd have nightmares. After the night of rain, the earth smelled fresh and clean. Emma came over to visit. I was having breakfast, and she casually grabbed a bottle of milk. Sis-in-law, I'm seriously losing it. Now I have to live with Jennifer. My parents went back to work, and I feel like I'm suffocating. It was just her, Patrick, and Jennifer in the house now. My parents are furious. They froze my brother's cards. But he still has savings and a terrible temper. He said if we kick Jennifer out, he'll leave too, and never come back. Emma grumbled nonstop. I couldn't help but chuckle. What a devoted fool. Sis-in-law, I can't take it anymore. We need to get out. Let's go to our university's anniversary celebration tomorrow. I paused. The university's anniversary? Right. Our alma mater was holding a celebration, and alumni were invited. Emma was actually my junior by a few years. Why the sudden interest in the celebration? I asked. She shrugged. The school called my brother this morning to invite him. He's even giving a speech. One of a university's legendary twin stars, after all. Why didn't they invite me? I'm successful too, earning a whole $3,000 a month. Emma was being sarcastic. Her salary was just nominal. Her real allowance was in the tens of thousands. I laughed, but something nagged at my memory. Twin stars? I thought there was only one. That star was Edward Wilson. Edward Wilson had been the brightest star in a university's history. Throughout my college years, Edward's brilliance was everywhere. He took 29 elective courses, ranked first in 21. He won first prize in the National University Physics Competition. He secured a university's first special award in the International Mathematical Modeling Contest. And more. He was so extraordinary that I remembered him vividly. I'd heard he later went abroad, courted by top universities. Probably settled overseas by now. Sis-in-law, what are you thinking? Are you coming to the celebration? It'll be fun to see old friends. I wasn't keen on going, Patrick would be there, and I didn't want to see him. But then again, why should I avoid him? He was nothing to me. Just a stranger. Let's go. We left, all excited. On the day of the celebration, we stuffed ourselves on campus food. Then we jogged to the university auditorium. That was where the main event was held, spacious, well-lit, with seating and a stage. After the speeches, there'd even be a ball. Outside the auditorium, we saw two posters. One featured Patrick, the other Edward. Patrick needed no explanation. He was accomplished, had a strong background, donated to the school every year. His invitation was well-deserved. Edward, though, was a mystery. No one had heard from him in years. I only learned from the poster that he was now a professor at Stanford University, and the youngest professor in Stanford's history. Incredible. Stanford is a top university. Edward truly deserves the title of one of the twin stars. Ever since he graduated, no one from our school has achieved anything like that, Emma said with admiration. She whipped out her phone and began snapping pictures. And he's still so handsome. Just look at that tailored suit, and those cold, ascetic lips. I gave her a look of disdain. Emma was hopelessly love-struck. Shaking my head, I tugged her into the auditorium. It was packed with alumni, many of whom we recognized. After some polite greetings, the celebration began. The principal and other school leaders gave their speeches, followed by Patrick's turn on stage. He looked excessively dashing today, like a celestial being descended to earth. The moment he stepped on stage, the hall erupted in cheers, a testament to his immense popularity. My brother's impressive, no doubt, Emma muttered. But he's such a fool. I remained silent. Once Patrick finished, Edward took the stage. Though not as popular, it wasn't due to a lack of ability. He had always been aloof and distant, a solitary figure. People admired him from afar, but he had no real social circle. I studied him carefully. His charm was nothing like Patrick's. If Patrick was a divine being walking among mortals, Edward was a sacred deer hidden in the mists. You see a deer deep in the forest, he embodied that poetic image. When Edward's speech ended, the celebration reached its peak. The auditorium transformed into a ballroom. Alumni, youthful or seasoned, mingled with laughter and drinks. Emma, always fond of food, darted around before disappearing entirely. While looking for her, I spotted Patrick walking toward me. He drew attention wherever he went, practically glowing under the lights. It was hard to deny his excellence. But I didn't want to see him. My first impression of him had sealed the deal, I simply couldn't be interested. "Angela, you came too," Patrick greeted me. I nodded. He chuckled softly. "Did you come to see me? I rarely give speeches like this. How did I do?" And just like that, my interest vanished. "Patrick, I'm just here to enjoy the event. And I've said it before, I don't know you. Please watch what you say," I said bluntly. Nearby alumni grew quiet, confused. Patrick's smile disappeared. He tightened his lips and suddenly grabbed my hand, pulling me away. "What are you doing?" I struggled, my wrist aching. He didn't answer. Wordlessly, he dragged me to a more secluded spot. "Angela, is there truly not a shred of love between us? I know I've wronged you, but must you humiliate me like this again and again?" Patrick asked, gritting his teeth in frustration. "No, there isn't. Because I don't even know you. How many times do I have to say it? I don't know you." I was furious. Who the hell did he think he was? Patrick punched the wall. His knuckles turned red. "Fine, keep pretending," he snapped, then turned and walked off toward a nearby girl. Smiling flamboyantly, he invited her to dance. The girl, clearly delighted, took his hand and followed him to the dance floor. Patrick shot me a cold glare, as if to provoke me. I rolled my eyes. "What is this, kindergarten?" "Angela, it's been a long time. Care to dance?" a soft voice asked. I turned, and there was Edward, smiling warmly at me. His voice was gentle and mild, a stark contrast to his cool appearance. That unexpected contrast caught me off guard. I pointed to myself. "You mean me?" "Yes, Angela," Edward replied, still smiling. I raised an eyebrow. "You know me? I was pretty much invisible at a university." "Not quite. You were a top student in the language and literature department. During the debate competition, you completely crushed me," Edward said with a chuckle. I paused to recall. Oh, that did happen. Back then, out of boredom, I had signed up for the debate contest, just hoping to learn from the elite. Unexpectedly, I did exceptionally well, and took first place. Edward had been one of my opponents. But I hadn't really noticed him. To be honest, I didn't pay attention to any guy at the time. I remember the debate topic, which is more important, love or life? "Our side chose love, yours chose life," Edward reminisced. "We were doomed to lose that one. Love can never outweigh life." "True. I won by luck," I said modestly. Edward laughed. "No, you won on merit. Back then, you were unstoppable, like a tree growing on the edge of a cliff, bursting with vitality." What a strange metaphor. Still, a compliment is a compliment. I accepted it with a smile. So I accepted his invitation. Might as well dance, otherwise, how dull. Edward took my hand and led me to the dance floor. To my surprise, he danced quite well. Not at all like a cold, untouchable genius, more like a social butterfly. "You dance often?" I teased. "Yes. There are lots of parties abroad. After a while, you just learn," Edward replied, gazing down at me. His eyes burned with intensity, quite out of character. Yet, his gaze didn't make me uncomfortable. It held admiration and genuine appreciation. Feeling a little flustered, I quickly changed the topic. "You haven't returned to China in years. What brought you back this time?" "I'm about to receive my green card. This may be my last trip back," he answered. I nodded and moved softly to the rhythm. The music was gentle and melodic. Laughter filled the room as alumni enjoyed the evening. I was thoroughly enjoying myself, until someone bumped into Edward, nearly knocking him over. I frowned. It was Patrick and his dance partner. Patrick's face was stormy, radiating hostility. Clearly, he had bumped into Edward on purpose. Edward steadied himself and saw Patrick. He said nothing, just led me quietly to the side. "Stop right there." Patrick suddenly barked. Abandoning his dance partner, he stormed over and grabbed my other hand. Edward's expression darkened. "Patrick, what are you doing?" "Edward, don't you know Angela is my fiancé? What's the meaning of this?" Patrick snapped. Whispers spread through the crowd. Everyone stared, stunned. I felt beyond embarrassed. Were they seriously fighting over me like I was some prize? Did I have any dignity left? Patrick, are you insane? I yanked my hand away. I'm done here. Edward didn't want to lose face either, so he pulled me along to keep walking. Edward, I'm talking to you. Patrick grew more furious. I didn't want to make a scene, but don't take my kindness for granted. Patrick had clearly lost control. With his status and usual composure, it was rare for him to say such things. Edward stopped. His gaze was sharp as a blade, his grip on my hand tightened, and his voice carried immense pressure. Patrick, do you want to be thrown out? That line was undoubtedly the biggest provocation. Patrick exploded with rage and punched Edward straight in the face. Amid the gasps of the crowd, Edward's nose began to bleed. But he wasn't weak, he struck back immediately. Just like that, the famous twin stars of a university got into a full-blown fistfight. I was stunned. What kind of grudge was this? Patrick going crazy was understandable, but Edward? With his background, how could he be even more explosive than Patrick? I couldn't comprehend it, nor did I have time to. I hurried to pull them apart. Other alumni stepped in to help. Both men ended up bleeding, Edward with a bloody nose, Patrick with blood oozing from his mouth. Angela, come with me. Patrick shoved through the crowd, leaving me no room to refuse. Edward said nothing. He simply looked at me. I felt like he wanted me to leave with him. Without much thought, I helped Edward up and walked away. We need to get to the hospital. Angela, you. Patrick stood frozen, stunned beyond belief. I looked back at him. His face was filled with disbelief and a fear that was hard to describe. It seemed he was finally afraid of losing me. I took Edward to the school clinic. His wound was treated quickly, and he was fine. Are you out of your mind? A Stanford professor getting into a fight at a party, aren't you ashamed? I still couldn't wrap my head around Edward's logic. Are all men this ridiculous? How is this any different from drunken brawls? Edward laughed, foolishly, almost. Tell me, debater Angela, what's more important, life or love? He asked seriously. It felt like years ago, when he stood cold and composed on the debate stage, questioning me rigorously. I froze, then smacked his head. Have you gone dumb? I think love matters more. Without love, life is just an empty shell, alive or dead makes no difference, Edward replied solemnly. I was speechless. I made a little bear gesture. Fine, fine. Love wins. You win this round. He laughed again. He seemed especially happy tonight, his smile especially bright. But night had fallen, and I had to go find Emma, that little foodie. I told Edward goodbye. If fate allowed, we'd meet again. After all, he was going back abroad, and seeing each other again would take a miracle. Edward hesitated, something stirring in his chest that he held back. I'm leaving then, okay? I waved. Edward opened his mouth. As I reached the door, he finally spoke. Angela, will you still marry Patrick? I paused. I could sense he knew about what had happened between Patrick and me. Even if I had no memory of it. Did you approach me on purpose? Who sent you? I turned to him. Jennifer told me you and Patrick were no longer together. That's why I came back, Edward admitted. Jennifer? I instantly understood everything. Edward had been used by Jennifer. She was too calculating. She first used her illness to win Patrick's sympathy, which led to him canceling the engagement. But Patrick still loved me and wouldn't give up, so Jennifer lured Edward back to be the third wheel. As long as Edward took me away, Patrick would be left with no choice. Jennifer would be the only option left for him. You were used, I shook my head. Edward chuckled softly. That's not the point. Haven't you realized, I'm confessing to you? I've noticed. Looks like debater Angela not only defeated you but also stole your heart. I gave a light snort. Edward sat on the hospital bed, tilting his head up to look at me. You haven't changed. You're still that tree on the cliff, swaying proudly, growing freely under the sun and spring breeze. Thanks for the compliment. Then, can I be the little grass growing beside you? Edward asked. Grow a bit more first. The rock's too hard, not easy to grow on. I waved my hand. I'm off. I caught Emma on campus. She was looking for me too, in a bit of a panic. Sis-in-law, my brother got into a fight with Edward? Damn, how embarrassing. Emma rolled her eyes. Let them fight. I took her home with me. It was already late when we got back. Our parents weren't home. Emma planned to stay the night. She didn't want to go back and live with Jennifer. My parents gave Patrick an ultimatum. If he doesn't kick Jennifer out tomorrow, they'll do it themselves, and violently. Sweet. Emma chattered as she entered the house. Uncle and Aunt Ford were truly civilized people, still willing to give Patrick one last warning. I think your brother's been spoiled. Your parents indulged him too much, I said. Totally. But you're not blameless either, sis-in-law. If you hadn't let Jennifer move in, my parents wouldn't have tolerated her this long. Emma gave me a side eye. She had a point. I was the one who let Jennifer move into Patrick's house. So that's that. Back home, we cooked some noodles. Just as we finished eating, the doorbell rang. Emma ran to open it. The moment she saw who it was, she shouted, "Jennifer? What are you doing here?" I raised an eyebrow and walked over. Sure enough, it was Jennifer. She wore a white coat and a thick hat. Her pale face looked drained of all color. "I'm here to see Angela," she said. "She's not seeing anyone. Leave." Emma tried to shoo her away. "Patrick just called me. He told me to get ready, he's going to marry me," Jennifer said calmly. Emma's eyes widened. "What? Say that again." "Patrick's going to marry me," Jennifer repeated, unshaken. Emma was furious. She raised her hand, ready to slap her. I stopped her. "Emma, go upstairs. I want to talk to Jennifer." "Sis-in-law, she's bad news." Emma protested. I shot her a look. Reluctantly, she went upstairs. Now it was just Jennifer and me downstairs. Jennifer waltzed in like she owned the place, glanced around the living room, and set her sights on the wine cabinet. Rows of expensive bottles glimmered elegantly under the lights. "I'd like a drink," she said, pointing. I picked a bottle and gestured for her to sit. She sat at the dining table, eyes shimmering as they met mine. I opened the bottle and poured her a glass. She accepted it with both hands and stared blankly at the swirling liquid. I poured a glass for myself too, took a sip, and asked, "What brings you here?" She didn't answer. Just took a slow sip, then sighed softly, "Delicious." "That's our cheapest bottle," I said truthfully. She didn't mind. After thinking for a moment, she said, "Angela, you know what? My dream was always to drink wine as elegantly as you." "That's a dream." "Of course. When I was 7, the village showed a movie. I sat on a manure bucket, all dirty, watching a blurry scene where a city woman crossed her legs and sipped wine. She looked so noble and beautiful, I never forgot that moment." A faint smile lit up her pale face. "I crossed my legs too. And then? Then I worked like mad. After chores, I studied. I never stopped. I broke pen after pen, wore my fingers raw. I was the first college student in our village. My parents borrowed money to send me to Beijing. Their backs bent from the weight of rice, their eyes stung from sweat, but I finally had the chance to study." Jennifer's eyes gradually turned red. She took another sip of red wine, then swirled the glass slowly, her gaze fixed on the liquid inside. "I got into a university. I was going to make something of myself. I could become a scientist, a businesswoman, a government official, at the very least, a white-collar worker. Finally, I could cross my legs and sip wine, elegant, beautiful, clean. I even wanted my parents to drink red wine. They deserved that too." I listened in silence. Jennifer was facing the same struggles many girls from impoverished mountain villages endure. "So, you want to marry Patrick and live a life of endless wine and luxury?" "No, Angela, it's not that, you don't understand me." Jennifer gave a bitter smile. "I had a bright future ahead of me. I had the opportunity and ability to end generations of poverty. I could almost touch that glass of red wine, it was right in front of me. But instead, I had to conquer Patrick. Isn't that ridiculous? I spent 7 years, my youth, trying to win over a man." Jennifer started laughing, louder and louder. Tears surged from her eyes like a flash flood through the mountains. "Do you know what that's like? Being forced to pour everything into winning over a man." I couldn't focus on my studies. I couldn't make progress or finish my coursework. My whole life revolved around him. And if I resisted, it felt like I'd die. She slammed the wine glass down on the table, red droplets splashing onto her hand. She flung them off and stared straight at me. I couldn't even feed myself, yet I had to buy Patrick breakfast. I didn't even like basketball, but I had to cheer for him. I was weak and got sick easily, but I still held the umbrella for him in the rain. Whenever I didn't comply, I was threatened with death. It felt like a steel wire wrapped around my throat, tight, suffocating. Jennifer said a lot. Her tears streamed down her cheeks, only to be quickly wiped away. I stared at her, stunned. "So, you never liked Patrick at all? A woman like me never dared to dream of love. That glass of wine, that's all I ever longed for. No woman willingly throws away 7 years of her youth for a man. Love isn't even worth 7 days of my time." Her words were firm, unwavering. I had nothing to say. Jennifer sniffled and let out a long, weary sigh. "I tricked Edward into coming back. I knew he had a crush on you ever since that debate you two had. I watched the whole thing, life versus love. He didn't let me down. He infuriated Patrick, just as I hoped. Because of Edward, Patrick now wants revenge. He's marrying me to make you regret everything." Jennifer let out a mocking laugh. "I know what he's thinking. He hopes you'll try to stop him. He wants you back. That's why I came to beg you, please, don't stop him. Let me end this conquest once and for all. I finally understood. Patrick wanted to provoke me. His claim that he wanted to marry Jennifer was a hasty, emotional decision. If I showed any sign of wanting him back, he'd cancel it all. And Jennifer's 7-year conquest would end in failure. If he marries you, everything will be over? Even your cancer? I asked. Yes, everything will end. Jennifer looked exhausted. It's been 7 years. I'm almost 30. I'm so tired. When will I finally get to sip that wine? She pulled out a bank card from her pocket. I looked at her, puzzled. She pushed the card toward me, her face full of reluctance. I've saved 89,000 yuan through scrimping and saving. I wasted all my energy on Patrick, so this is all I've managed to save. This is your reward. The password is. I didn't want to accept her payment, but she didn't take it back. She simply finished her wine and, frail as ever, walked away. At the door, she suddenly turned back and asked, "Do you still love Patrick?" "Obviously not," I said calmly. "I've already forgotten him." "Then I have no guilt left. Patrick doesn't deserve your love. He didn't just abandon you after I got cancer. He left you many times before that." Jennifer sneered. "Many times?" "Yes. I was free prey, pretty, obedient, gentle, and considerate. Patrick didn't love me, but he enjoyed being pursued. He pretended to hate me, but he never turned me down. I'd ask him to chat or go shopping, and he'd come even when he had plans with you. He was a master at stringing people along." Jennifer brushed her hair aside. "He loved you deeply, but he also enjoyed the thrill of free prey." So, during those 7 years, Patrick had actually enjoyed being chased by Jennifer. He never really rejected her. So when she got cancer, he abruptly changed his attitude. It wasn't that he hated Jennifer, Jennifer hated him. Because she had been forced to pursue him. I scoffed. What a joke. After seeing Jennifer off, Emma ran down and asked, "That annoying woman's gone?" "What did she want?" "Nothing much." I picked up the bank card from the table. Emma looked suspicious. "Why'd Jennifer come? Is my brother really marrying her?" "Yes." Patrick had lost his mind. He was trying to provoke me. The very next day, he organized a family gathering for both our families, at my house. My parents thought Patrick had finally come to apologize. Uncle Ford and Aunt Ford were delighted, sipping tea and smiling. "It's wonderful that you two made up. As for Jennifer, we've done enough for her. Not kicking her out into the street is mercy." "Exactly. Patrick and Angela have settled their engagement. As for Jennifer's illness, we'll cover the expenses," said our kind relatives. Patrick said nothing. He just stared at me. I ignored him. He let out a cold snort and spoke. "Angela, did you enjoy dancing with Edward?" The room fell into a stunned silence. All the relatives froze. "Patrick, what did you say?" Uncle Ford barked. "What did I say? Angela really has her charms, doesn't she? She even managed to hook up with the most eligible guy from a university." His words dripped with sarcasm. "Her own fiancé gets hurt and she doesn't lift a finger. But when it's someone else, oh, suddenly it's an emergency trip to the hospital. Probably even cried from the heartbreak." "What the hell are you barking about? I told you, I don't know you. I don't feel a damn thing for you. Why can't I dance with someone else?" I shot back. Patrick exploded with fury. He slammed his palm on the table, his eyes bloodshot. "So you're still pretending to have amnesia, huh?" "I'm not pretending. I really don't know who you are. But I've always remembered Edward, and I've always admired him. He confessed to me, and I said yes." I dropped the bomb. The entire room was shaken. Every relative was dumbfounded. Patrick laughed in rage, pointing a trembling finger at me. "Of course. Fine. Perfect. Just so you know, I'm marrying Jennifer too. Let's just leave it at that. Goodbye." With that, he stormed out without looking back. I stared at his retreating figure. I knew he wanted me to stop him. So I called out, "Wait." Patrick immediately halted but refused to turn around. He sneered, "What now? Edward and I are getting engaged the day after tomorrow. Don't forget to bring a gift." He froze, fists clenched so tight his knuckles turned white. Then he stomped away. Just like that, Patrick left. This video is an original work of the YouTube channel Romance Grove and is published exclusively on this channel. Please don't re-upload or share it on other channels. Everyone was dazed and bewildered, unable to comprehend what had just happened. I didn't bother explaining. I left for a university alone. At the campus field, I spotted Edward wandering aimlessly. That was just like him, he loved strolling around the track whenever he had free time. It got to the point where girls used to hang around just to stage a coincidental encounter. I walked straight toward him. When I reached his back, he still hadn't noticed me. I was about to tap his shoulder when he suddenly received a video call. Once connected, it was clear the callers were his parents. "Edward, when are you coming back to the States? You need to get your green card," his dad said urgently. His mom chimed in, "Come back soon. I found a lovely girl for you, she's mixed race and stunning." Edward smiled. "No rush. I'm just enjoying the chance to visit my alma mater." No rush, you're not getting any younger. Get back here. I want to introduce you to that girl," his mom insisted. His dad's tone grew serious. "Son, you're almost 30, right? And you've never had a girlfriend. You're not. You know. I'm warning you, even if we live in America, that kind of lifestyle is not acceptable." I nearly burst out laughing. So Edward also gets nagged about marriage. "Mom, Dad, stop overthinking. I'll be back soon," Edward said helplessly. After the video call ended, he went back to wandering. I jumped next to him and shouted, "Boo." Edward flinched, then chuckled when he saw me. "Debater Angela, tell me, what's scarier, people or ghosts?" "Stop right there. I'm done debating." I really couldn't deal with him. Edward nodded with a grin. Without wasting time, I pulled out my phone and took a selfie. He looked surprised and immediately tensed up, his cheeks stiff. "Why are you nervous?" "It's just a selfie," I said, exasperated. "I don't know. I just never imagined that the legendary debater Angela would take a selfie with me." He looked ridiculously handsome, even when nervous. I snapped a quick shot and posted it to my moments. "We're together now." Edward was stunned. He stared at my post in disbelief. "Angela. Are you serious?" he asked, not blinking. I nodded. "After all these years, you're the only one who ever made me feel something." "What about Patrick?" "Who's that?" I honestly didn't know who he was. Edward stared at me for a long time before urgently calling his parents. "Mom, Dad, forget the green card, I'm staying in China. I want to live here." "Didn't you always say you wanted to come back too?" "Once I'm settled, I'll bring you over." Oh boy, the man's officially love-struck. So this is one of the twin stars of a university? The untouchable genius? Ha! Turns out he's just like the rest of us. I went home, completely satisfied. Patrick was standing at my door, dark and brooding like an owl at midnight. He was radiating hostility, head down, body trembling slightly. As I approached, he looked up, lips trembling. "You're really with Edward?" "Yes," I said openly. "Angela, do you really not love me anymore? Just because I tried to save Jennifer, you hate me that much?" "Sorry. I don't even know who you are. How could I possibly love you?" I laid it out plainly. Patrick closed his eyes. His voice squeezed from his throat. "Fine. Fine. Just don't regret this. Don't you dare regret it." He walked away completely heartbroken. Soon after, I heard a furious argument erupt from his house, Uncle Ford's shouting, Aunt Ford's crying. Then came the roar of an engine. Patrick drove off with Jennifer in his sports car. Later that night, I saw Patrick's social media post. "To have you in this life, what a blessing." There were 2 photos attached. One of him and Jennifer together. The other? Their marriage certificate. Sis-in-law, Patrick's lost his mind. He's gone insane. Emma came running, face pale. "He married Jennifer, didn't he?" I said calmly. "Yes. He fought with the whole family, grabbed the household register, and ran off to marry her. It's over, it's all over." Emma was nearly in tears. I guess I couldn't be her sister-in-law anymore. And I could already see the storm brewing. Our families were going to explode. When that time came, I'd have a major headache on my hands. "Emma, I'm going traveling. Tell everyone not to look for me. I'm fine, and I have Edward now." I had to leave before the storm hit. That very day, before any relatives could track me down, I packed a few things and slipped away. On the road, I messaged Edward and told him to pack up and join me for a trip. By nightfall, we were seated across from each other on a high-speed train, smiling. "Debater Angela, where are we headed?" "Somewhere fun. I'll travel for a month before thinking about anything else." A month should be long enough to avoid the fallout. Edward followed my lead without complaint. We went wherever we pleased, eating, drinking, sleeping, living as we liked. He was such a gentleman. Even when we shared a hotel room at night, he wouldn't dare touch me, lying stiff as a board like a corpse. But I wanted to touch him. Who wouldn't want to? He was so handsome. So, on the last night of our trip, I lay in the dark and stretched my foot over to his leg. He froze instantly, his breathing changed. I cleared my throat. "Debater Edward, do my feet feel cold?" "Cold. Then why aren't you warming them up?" "Understood." That warmth didn't stop at my feet. Our trip ended, and we returned to Beijing. Edward's parents couldn't wait to return to China. He ran to greet them, thrilled, and even invited me to a family dinner the next day to formally introduce me. Of course, I agreed. Afterward, I called Emma and asked what had happened in the past month. Sis-in-law, you're finally back? Ugh, my brother's completely ruined. Wandering aimlessly every day, drinking and gambling. Emma sighed heavily. Seriously? It's only been a month. Jennifer divorced him, the day after they got married. It was clearly just for show. We're all baffled. Emma sounded bewildered. We thought she was after money, dreaming of being a rich wife, but she voluntarily divorced the next day. Didn't ask for a cent, my brother. He was still hung up on you. Even after the wedding, he was full of regret and agreed to the divorce right away. Then Jennifer told him something, and he just broke. Mentally collapsed. Emma sounded deeply disappointed. Suddenly, there was noise on her end. Then the phone was snatched away. Patrick's sobbing voice rang out. Angela, is that you? I was wrong. Come back, please. How could you forget me? Were you trying to conquer me too? I abandoned you, so now you've forgotten me. What was he even saying? Jennifer told me. She guessed you failed your mission to conquer me. I'm a bastard. Come back, please. Patrick sobbed like his heart was being torn apart. But I remained unmoved. Because I truly didn't know who he was. I've already married Edward. Goodbye. I turned off my phone, for good. I was in a great mood. I didn't feel like going home, so I strolled through the streets. As I passed Wanda Plaza, I spotted a familiar figure. She wore plain clothes, no makeup, and was passionately handing out flyers. I stood and watched, her smiling cheeks, her slender frame bathed in sunlight, her hair fluttering in the wind. And her sparkling eyes. She was like a tree clinging to a cliff's edge. That's what a true cliff-edge tree looks like. I ran over to her. She paused upon seeing me, then grinned. Want a drink? There's a coffee shop over there. I've got a bottle of red wine in my bag. Where'd you get wine? From Patrick's house. I couldn't let those 7 wasted years go just like that, so I took his most expensive bottle on the way out. Well stolen. Let's go drink. Half a year later, I married Edward. My family had long since moved away from that neighborhood. As for Patrick, he'd completely fallen apart, drinking, gambling, doing nothing with his life, ruining his own company. His parents, heartbroken, got sick and eventually gave up on him entirely. The next time I saw Patrick was on Christmas Eve, on the street. He revved his sports car loudly, a heavily made-up woman beside him screaming in excitement. From afar, I watched him swagger out of the car with the woman on his arm, spitting on the ground. He was no longer the graceful, dashing twin star of a university, just a mess of a man. Damn it, so many people. Where's that bar we went to last time? Patrick cursed as he looked around. The woman giggled. I forgot. Where was it again? Patrick froze, then turned and shouted, forget what? You better remember. Don't you dare forget. The woman trembled, apologizing profusely. Remember. Think harder. Patrick slapped her. She quickly pointed. I remember. It's that way, over there. Satisfied, Patrick draped an arm around her and walked toward the bar, until, halfway there, he suddenly burst into tears, collapsed to the ground, and wailed like a child. Later, I ran into Jennifer again. She no longer handed out flyers, she had passed the civil service exam back in her hometown. After all, she graduated from a university. Those 7 lost years were just a rough patch. She was always destined to bounce back. She planned to leave Beijing after her appointment. Before leaving, she came to see me, carrying another bottle of red wine. I smiled. A drink? Conqueror Angela, this one's on me. No need to be so polite, it's not our first time. We drank happily. Well, mostly Jennifer talked, and I listened. She had worked hard, studied like crazy, and finally passed the exam. She could finally sip red wine with her legs crossed like a queen. 7 years late, but that red wine was well earned. Cheers to that. Looking at her radiant smile under the setting sun, I suddenly understood, some journeys may be delayed, but they always find their way. And me? I had long since stepped out of the shadows, into my own light.